He came. He came. Just like he promised. Just like he promised all the way in the book of Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, to Eve. He promised as soon as they made their first mistake, Messiah is coming. Aren't you thankful for that? So tonight, we're going to talk about that. It was about a year ago, I was asked to write a chapter in a book that Destiny Image was publishing. And the name of the book is called The Glory Has Come. And I wrote my chapter in here, it's chapter 9. And I decided to take a little bit of a different approach. But I decided to take a true story out of my childhood and weave this storyline that would once again be able to share with the readers, and even tonight in this room, this story of the ages. So what I want to ask you to do tonight, since the mill house couldn't hold everybody, which is where I would rather be, sitting by the fireplace, but we're going to have to just pretend that we're sitting there tonight. That's why I brought my rocking chair. It makes me feel a little bit old, but I am a grandmother, so that's just the way it goes. But I got my rocking chair here, and I brought this very special Bible. This is my grandmother's Bible. And as you can see, it's been well worn. Actually, she's got another one. I've got her stuff in the mill house. So I keep this in the mill house. And I've got another one of her Bibles in the mill house. And it's so funny because she used it. It was just like this one. It was identical. But she had used it so much that the cover on it is nothing but duct tape. You can't see one thing on the cover but gray duct tape. That's it, the whole cover. But as you can see, she looks like she's had some prayer meetings with this one too. And my name, I opened it the other day and looked at it again, and my name is scribbled all in it, my little girl handwriting, where I held it in church. So this story is about this Bible. So I want you, if you will, to come in with me, and I'm going to read you my chapter. Now, for you to get this, you got to listen. So say, I'm listening. Okay. So stay right with the storyline and just listen, because we're going to take a journey and we're going to go somewhere. And I want him to be glorified at the end. Get my glasses on. Hang on. This is entitled My Grandmother's Bible. As a child, during the sometimes long sermons at church, I loved to entertain myself by looking at the pictures scattered throughout my grandmother's thick Bible. With vivid color and graphic detail, each picture came alive to me and left me in awe and wonder at its meaning and message. These all became portraits hung in the gallery of my memory that I frequently find myself strolling through with the same intrigue and question I had as a child. It is as though each painting is still speaking, weaving into one storyline a message from the artist himself. In the beginning of the gallery is the beautiful portrait of Eden, the garden of God. The bright green grass and the cloudless blue sky and the flowers of every color imaginable reflect the magnificent creativity of their creator. Animals of every kind walk about with no animosity or fear, for the atmosphere itself appears to be perfect love. Back in the distance is the man Adam and his counterpart Eve, conveniently standing behind a hedge of shrubbery. They are the caretakers of this lush garden, but far more than that, they are actually the son and daughter of the Creator himself. Unlike the rest of creation, they look like him. They reflect his glory, bearing the very image of their Father. He gives them authority and dominion over all of his creation. And as he and they co-labor together, he delights in hearing the name and identity Adam gives each animal he has so artistically crafted. With limitless imagination and possibility, they dream together. Adam, God, and Eve. In this beautiful place, sharing deep intimacy as they walk and talk in the cool of the day. This unspoiled scene in my memories gallery tells me the way our Father wants his world to be. A place of perfect beauty, perfect communion, and perfect love. The next picture reveals the flawless features of Eve as she looks with contemplative intrigue at the enticing fruit she's holding between her slender fingers. Very near to her is the figure of a cunning serpent entwined around the tree of which she has wandered too closely. Adam and Eve have been given boundless access to this paradise, with the exception of this one tree, the tree of knowing good and evil. According to the words of their Father, to eat the fruit of this tree will result in certain death. But with no paradigm for death, it seems harmless enough for her to just draw near and gaze upon its compelling beauty. It's then she notices the serpent that seems to live in its branches. Since Adam and Eve have been made caretakers of their Father's creation, to communicate with an animal or serpent is nothing unusual, really. All seems quite normal until the serpent begins to speak of things that question the validity of her Father's word, thus undermining his authority and questioning the very depth of his character. Did God say, is the serpent's query. This beguiles her to doubt the intent of her Father's command. She is now convinced the serpent is right. God cannot be fully trusted. She tastes the fruit and invites Adam to share in its deceitful delight. In that moment, their eyes are opened to a world of darkness, shame, and sin. Their glorious bodies are now infected by the pull of death that is calling them back to the dust from whence they came. Their father, their love for their father, has now turned to fear of their father. And for the first time, they run and hide when they hear him calling, Adam, Adam, where are you? I can still remember the sadness that I felt as a child when I looked at the next picture. Adam and Eve are being made to leave the beautiful garden. Wearing garments made from the skins of animals, they are bent low, hands covering their faces, weeping as they leave the presence of their father to follow the new master they have chosen through their disobedience. The land before them looks dark and uncertain. Adam works by the sweat of his brow to break up the dirt that has now been cursed with thorns and thistles. Eve experiences the pain of bringing life into a world that has been cursed by the choice she made. They miss the ease and the glory of the garden, but most of all, they miss their father. The sound of his voice, the joy in his laughter. Their walks together in the cool of the day are all becoming just a distant memory. They try to create words that will describe to their children and their children's children the face of their father and the world they once knew. Adam and Eve want their children to know him too, but how will they know him? Because they have been born spiritually blind to his world and spiritually deaf to his voice. It is here we would think the gallery would end. Surely the final picture would be this one: Adam and Eve walking away forever from their father and his world, living only to survive until they and all their sons and daughters are consumed by the curse of death. After all, wouldn't it have been easier for the father to have left them with the consequence of their disobedience? Couldn't he, God, just simply have gone back into his home in the heavens and forgotten that they ever existed and create another world without them? Maybe so. But the story doesn't end that way. With each step down the gallery's corridor, the pictures continue to tell the story of a father who never stops calling out to his sons and daughters, "I'm coming to save you." Turning the corner, we discover the story continues. Here, we have the portrait of the man who found grace in the Father's eyes. It is Noah, standing on the deck of his big boat with his arms lifted high in worship and covered by the rainbow of his Father's promise. "I'm coming to save you." Next, we pass the picture of a very old man standing behind an altar of stone. With his right hand, he holds a dagger that has just been thrust into the air. Atop the altar, laid across the purposefully placed wood, is a young man, his hands and feet tied as though he was a willing sacrifice. Looking carefully, we can see the anguished relief on the face of the aged father as he appears to hear a voice shouting from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, don't lay a hand on the boy. Now that I know you love me, I will bless you." The message behind the Father's request for Abraham's sacrifice is a loud and clear promise to all the sons and daughters of Adam. "I'm coming to save you." Coming to the next portrait, we see the masterpiece of the man Moses, on his knees holding the stone tablets in his hands that appear to have been given to him straight from the hand of the Father himself. Written on the tablets are laws that will teach and protect Moses and the children of Israel until they can come again into the Father's kingdom. God requests that Moses build a tabernacle, a most holy place where he can dwell on the earth to be near the ones he loves once more. Separated only by the curtain that hangs in the holy place, the Father is among them. Once a year, as the high priest enters behind the veil and atonement is made for the sins of the people, God proclaims his promise: "I'm coming to save you." Continuing in the gallery's narrative, we encounter the young David with his sling. It is whirling through the air, hurling the stone into the falling giant's head. Now, we see Daniel standing tall and straight with his face heavenward as the lions around him appear to be ready for a good night's sleep. Oh, but I must not forget one of my favorite scenes. Standing unafraid are three young men inside the fiery furnace, yet standing among them is a fourth man glowing with the glory of God. Throughout the Old Testament, each picture resonates with the love of the Father intervening in the time of his children's trouble, defeating enemies that were too strong for them, and prophesying through each of them, I'm coming to save you. Over 4,000 years have passed since Adam and Eve walked away from the garden. The longing, searching heart of the Father has followed their offspring through the wilderness to the promised land. He's watched them worship other gods, pretending they never even knew him. He's endured their rebellion and longed for their repentance. He spoke through Isaiah, Jeremiah, Micah, and Malachi, calling his children back to himself for communion and fellowship, promising he would someday send a deliverer, a savior, a Messiah. Again and again, his voice rang out, I'm coming to save you. I'm coming to save you. With a final turn in the gallery, we pass through empty corridors representing 400 years of silence. For between the Old Testament and the New Testament, there is not one picture on the wall. Then, suddenly, as if out of nowhere, we see it. It's the picture all creation has longed to see, portrayed in a scene no one had ever imagined. A manger, complete with hay, animal stalls, and a dirt floor. Lying in the foreground are cows and sheep wondering about the unusual company with whom they are sharing their barn. To the right of the picture are perplexed shepherds kneeling in worship. Standing to the side is Joseph, and sitting on a bale of hay in front of him is Mary. But it is the one in the middle of the manger who has captured their gaze. There, lying in an animal trough and wrapped in swaddling clothes, is the baby. Contained in the small, moving frame is the very essence of God. The sound of his first cry moves the heavens and earth, for it was this voice that released their birth. Angels have filled the sky above the small barn. They all peer into the wonder of the moment and share the same thought. What manner of love is this? Although prophets and angels could not comprehend its meaning, as a child, sitting there next to my grandmother, with her Bible stretched across my knees, I understood. Yes, I knew exactly what it meant. He came. He came. Just like he promised. He came to live among us, to understand the feeling of our infirmities, to bear our grief and carry our sin to his cross. Yes, I understood. The baby in this picture was born to die so we could live. He came to save us so we could return with him back to his beautiful world and know again the eternal, unfailing love of our Father. As the sermon neared its end, I would close my grandmother's Bible and I would listen as she lifted her sweet voice to join with the others gathered around her singing the song of invitation. As their voices became one, I would close my eyes and hear the voice within their voices calling to the sons and daughters of Adam, come home, come home, ye who are weary, come home. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is still calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. He came so we could come home. And with the faith of a child, I accepted the invitation. Let's stand. That picture is the real story of Christmas. That's why he came. He came so we could come home. And tonight, I believe he wants us to be reminded of that. He made the way home simple enough that a child can find it. Because he is the way.